Thanks. So I was giving this talk to the class earlier this week to prep for it, and I realized afterwards that, you know the Steve Ballmer video where he's running around the stage yelling developers, 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 like he's crazy passionate? That's kind of the way that I feel about this topic. And so I imagine in my brain that that's what I was doing as I was giving this talk. So just to give you a mental image, if you see me kind of pacing around and flailing my arms, like really I'm just channeling my inner Ballmer. Stack Overflow needs our help. They're already doing a pretty great job, which I'm going to talk about in the last year or so. They've been working on it, but there's things that we can do, and I'll tell you why and what we need to do. This is me, for anybody who doesn't know me. That's my QR code on LinkedIn. Hopefully everyone brings out their phone if they're not already connected to me and connects to me. 46 slides, give you an idea of where we're going. We're on 2. The instructor here at Learn. I'm also one of the partners at Notch 8, so been doing Ruby since about 2007. Been programming since about 99. Stack Overflow is making a huge effort, especially in 2018. They've been really focused on being more welcoming to new developers. We're going to get into some of the specifics that they did, but they focused on helping new users create good questions and then helping their experienced users, the people who have been around for a while, or the people answering the questions, do a better job of welcoming those folks. We're going to look at why and how we can help continue that trend. So what is Stack Overflow? That's in a lot of circles, that's like asking what is water or what is sleep. Like we all live and breathe Stack Overflow, right? John Skeet, who's he has the highest reputation on the site, says that it's a repository of high quality questions and answers. And I think that's really a good description of it. It also starts to lead into why Stack Overflow can sometimes feel like an unwelcoming place. People have a vested interest, the people answering questions, they have a vested interest in keeping the quality high, where they want to see good questions because the signal to noise ratio just goes way down if people are asking and then getting answers to stuff that's not well written, not appropriate. Stack Overflow is only about programming. That's it. It's a resource for us developers. And so the high quality piece is how do we maintain a welcome environment, specifically on the site, which is the topic of this talk, but I think it goes out well beyond that. As a community, how do we practice being a swan and welcome new folks in? Learn. You can see why this is important to me. Learn is that's Learn's entire mission. In 2018, Stack Overflow had 9 billion page views, 100 million users, 2 million questions, 2.5 million answers. So clearly it's an important resource. I tried to do a search when we had a new class starting on Monday, and I was trying to tell them what Stack Overflow was, and I'm like, no matter what you search for, you're going to get an answer on Stack Overflow. It was like the first 5 answers. And so, of course, like the first 3 searches I did, it wasn't even in the top 10. But it is true, on average. 100% of the time, most of the time. There were 1.6, and I think this is really important, there were 1.6 million new users. Those are not all new programmers, but a lot of them are new programmers. Right? If you've been around for a while, you have an account on Stack Overflow, so those are mostly new users. And then this is what a lot of them find the first time that they put up a question. They come there for a reason. People are purpose-driven, and they get these short responses. It's getting a lot better, but I'll show you a couple. You can still easily go find them on the questions posted in the last couple hours. There's still some pretty terse answers. So it's probably the most useful website besides Learn for new developers. But it has a reputation that's unwelcoming to new developers. This doesn't make any sense. Right? I mean, that's the opposite of what we want. And so it got me into thinking and watching a video from John Skeet of, is this a Stack Overflow problem or is this our problem? Is this an industry problem? And Stack Overflow just can't escape this thing that we're dealing with in the industry. And it's something we've been talking about since I've been, my first RailsConf was 2008 maybe? And there were talks on inclusivity and getting more, being more welcoming to underrepresented populations as programmers. And that's kind of what we're talking about here, only the underrepresented population is people who are just learning how to program. It's like a party and nobody else is invited, but we have this need for more developers. So we have to be welcoming to that group of folks as well. And I think Stack Overflow it's a measure of how we're doing, and it's an influencer on how we're doing. I think we go there if we're participating, and I'm going to try and encourage everybody, no matter what your how many years or months or weeks or days you've been programming, to get a Stack Overflow account and participate. If you're asking questions, answering questions, the way that we engage with each other there is very visible to everybody else. And so we can start here and start to create that community, that welcoming community here. And I think it's really important. All right, so back to John Skeet. This is back to his quote. Who is this guy? There he is. He's number one. 1 million. He's got a reputation of 1.1 million. I, by the way, full disclosure, have a reputation of 50. I am learning this as much as anybody else. And what I think is interesting, and I just posted this because I think it's fascinating. Why do people answer questions here? Why do people engage here? Why does John spend his time? He's a programmer at Google, C# programmer. Well, I think that's a big reason. He just has a mission. He's reached 283 million people. That means people he's answered questions for, which are 34,000, plus all the people who've come to look at those questions and be helped by those questions to do their jobs, to do their hobbies, to improve their skills. So that's pretty gratifying. That's pretty amazing. All right, so what are we talking about? What is unwelcome on Stack Overflow? In 2018, again, when they took this initiative on, these are all numbers provided by Stack Overflow, by the way. They're unbelievably transparent about this problem. There were 2 million flags of abusive, unwelcoming, inappropriate content that they were flagged and researched, and most of them they took off the site. That's a lot of experiences. That's more than the total number of new developers on the site. So what does that look like? It's subtle. Let me take a step back. I don't think that people, I don't think that they're rude or unwelcoming on purpose. I think that it gets back to that idea of we want to keep the quality high. We want to discourage people from asking bad questions, but we want to encourage them to ask good questions. And so there's what did we say, 100 million people that are trying to balance that equation, right? 100 million users are trying to figure out the answer to how do we keep the quality of this thing high, this thing that we care about, how do we keep it high? And so this is what can happen. So this person, you can see, and we're going to talk more about this flag right here, this new contributor flag, but people have just come along and downvoted him. This is the first time he's ever posted. And people just come and say negative, negative, negative. What's that experience like for that person? The people that do that are using the tools provided by the site to try and be helpful, right? To let's bury this question that's not great. But the experience for I.J. Riley here is one of, well, I must be dumb. It's like it's imposter syndrome reinforcement. It's not what we're after. We want I.J. Riley to learn something, to say, okay, maybe I didn't ask a great question. How can I do it better? Instead, they may be discouraged. You can get even more aggressive with your being unhelpful by trying to be helpful. And answering with a non-answer, right? This person said, you shouldn't put stuff like this here. There's no help. Like, think about the experience of, who is this, Jay? They came along, they probably knew to programming. I mean, I'm putting a lot of history on somebody I don't know anything about, but let's assume this is a new programmer. They're trying to do something fairly challenging. I've never even heard of Termux. Like, they're into some interesting things, and they're trying to get them up and running, and they don't know where to go for help. But they find Stackoverflow, they've Googled something else and landed here. There's finally a place that maybe they can get an answer to. And they don't even know exactly what to search for, perhaps, but they do the best they can. This person didn't read a bunch of stuff that Stack Overflow did to try and puts on the site to try and help them, but that's beside the point. They put themselves out there. They said, I'm going to say, I'm going to ask a question, and I'm going to hopefully people help me. And then this person comes along and just says, you're not welcome, right? We don't want your kind of questions. And so, this person goes away. Maybe this person goes away feeling discouraged, like they don't know where to go for help again. Here's another one. This one I know is definitely not intended to be unwelcoming, but here's just somebody cranked out a sentence, right? This wasn't enough information for them to get an answer. So he says, can you explain in English what it is you're trying to do? Like, any programmer knows what that means. That means, I want to hear a sentence or two about what you're trying to do. What I might read if I'm not a programmer or if I'm a new programmer is, I'm being insulted, right? I'm not, speaking in real words, sort of a thing. So I think this is almost like email, right? Like, I've offended so many people in email. Rob is the one who finally pointed this out to me. Like, because he used to think I was mad at him when I email him answers, and I wasn't mad at him. So like I said, they're working on this. This was the company's highest goal in 2018. And so how does that manifest itself? What did they carry forward into 2019? We're going to look at a couple of these. But this Welcome Wagon it's a committee, and it's probably like a focus group inside the company. I don't know how it operates, but they get together and they talk about initiatives and things that they can do to be more welcoming across the site, or in specific areas, or whatever the case is. They're dedicating resources, internal resources, to improve this. There's a new code of conduct. We're going to look at a little bit of it, but it's amazing. It's probably the best code of conduct I've ever read on a website. It's short, succinct, it's very clear. It gives specific examples, and those examples translate into clear action or clear expectations for users. There's that new contributor flag. We looked at that, right? There's this thing right here, this guy. So it's easy. When I'm answering, I have no excuse but to know that this is somebody maybe I need to take a little extra time with and explain things a little bit better. And then the new question wizard, which I think is a fantastic idea. We're going to get into that. That's to help on that other side. So we want to keep that experience for people answering questions, our seasoned developers. We want them on the site, or they want them on the site. They want them coming back. That's their entire value prop for our industry, is that they've got really smart people answering hard questions. So they've got to make that experience good. And I think that to do that, you have to help the people answering questions, the people that are going there for help. All right, cool. So that code of conduct, this is the first half of it. We want to build a community rooted in kindness, collaboration, and mutual respect. That feels very real to me. I read a lot of code of conducts that are, we're welcoming for everybody, and they don't have bite to them, right? I think this one really talks about, okay, each of these words is a principle that they want to have applied to their site. So I think it's really great. There's more to it. We're going to get into a little bit more of it. Here's that wizard. I know it's super small, but and the point isn't the text of it. But you go through and you kind of start, like when you click ask a question, you go into here, and it's just contextual. It's giving you information, and then it kind of slowly slowly boil the frog until you're in here at, entering code, you're pasting code. But you've gone through a lot of steps. You've gone through, most importantly, I think, is this one, where you're searching the app for questions that maybe yours may be a duplicate of, right? They're helping you try and keep the duplication down. But I think, and they only do this, the cool thing is they only do this for I think it's the first 10 questions that you ask. After that, they say, okay, this person's probably good enough, and they take the kid gloves off, and away you go, right? Your training wheels are left for the next person. But by then, hopefully, you're trained to ask good questions, and I think it's a pretty cool idea. All right, so what can we do? How can we help? Because we're all part of this community, I think. And to start with, for a lot of us, is asking good questions. And here's basically the recipe that you can read this all over their website. You can read it in that tutorial. It has to be code related. There's Stack Exchange that's for everything else. So if you got another question, go ask it there. Duplicates, like we just talked about. And then here's the sort of the ingredients for a good question. What did you try to do? What actually happened? Related code. And what have you tried or searched for so far? And that's not the easiest formula to follow, especially for someone who's still learning about programming. But I think it's a pretty good start if I break those down and really think about them. John Skeet, that guy I was talking about, he said that for the questions that he asks on the site, he still spends, to this day, a half an hour putting that question together. Like that's the sort of time frame that we should be thinking about these questions. And when you think about it, a half an hour may seem like a long time, but how much time are you going to code yourself into a hole or do whatever and come up 3 hours later? Like a half an hour is pretty good use of your time to ask a question that'll get answered. And I think for folks who are new to asking for help, who are new or are still learning the vernacular of programming, which is a lot of folks that are brand new to the site, I think it's worth trying to follow this and failing. I think that's a really useful thing. Getting those downvotes, that's the other part of this is and I hate to say this and take this in the context of this talk, is we have to just be a little bit jaded to that there's mean people on the internet. And I'm not victim blaming here, but we just have to say, okay, that we can learn from getting downvoted. We can learn from somebody being short with us. That, okay, what could I have done maybe to not trigger that knee-jerk response from somebody? There's a little bit of that. I think we can learn from that. But my point is that this really is a learning opportunity. If we're dedicated to following this, asking questions, then we're going to get better at it as we get a couple reps in, as we iterate. All right, so back to this one. This was the one that got downvoted, and they just didn't tell this person why. Is it a good question? So the text up there says, I'm trying to solve HackerRank's New Year's Chaos Challenge. The script is supposed to print too chaotic in a certain case and do some other things in a different case. It's basically you parse an array and you make some analysis of the array. And then he gives his code, obviously, and then that link right there links to the automated tests on this HackerRank website, and he asks for help. So I think that if we go back to here, what did you try to do? Well, I think that's pretty clear. He definitely stated that. And if you want it more concise, he's saying the script is supposed to print blah, 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 right? He actually goes into detail on exactly the part of the script that he's asking for help on. So I think he covers that. What actually happened? Well, he's got automated tests because he's working in an app, which is pretty cool. Code. It's for the people who are quickly reading through that code. He copied about half of the method, right? There's more ends there than openings of blocks. But, that guy's new. The person's new. It's okay. And what have you tried and searched for so far? And that's what that paragraph talks about the things he's tried. He's trying print and puts and all kinds of different things. So I think this is a pretty good question. I really do. I don't think it deserves to be downvoted like that. So I gave him an answer. whether it's right or not, we'll see. I didn't get any more reputation points. See, I'm only at 51. Maybe I'll come back, I don't know. Answer new users in a welcoming way. So what is welcoming? I think this is, I've talked a little bit about this so far, but it's what's contextually compassionate. If somebody's asking a bad question, it's not compassionate to answer that question. That's not what we're asking for. But it is compassionate to help them either reframe the question, find the right place to ask the question, or go find the answer themselves. Right? That's an answer. If you say, I think that this search term will work really great, go put it in Google and you'll get your answer. I think that's a pretty good welcoming answer. We're back to this poor fellow, Jay. So that's definitely not welcoming. Let's go into the code of conduct. So here's the second half of the code of conduct, and there's maybe six examples. But if, I shouldn't pick on Pardeep here, but if he had read the code of conduct, the very first one says, that's not the greatest choice. You can Google this, or you can post this somewhere else, is his response. Better is, here's some keywords, right? This person calls out some keywords that you can put into Google, and then you'll find a better answer on who knows where, Stack Exchange or whatever. So I think that it's really important to when we're thinking about that signal-to-noise ratio, the right answer isn't to accommodate new folks and degrade the quality of the content. It's to help them along, to not make them feel like they're unwelcome or they're alone. So that one wasn't friendly. But then that same question, this one, when you scroll down a little bit, someone else feels like I do, Ashmaroli, and they did exactly that, right? They Googled it for them. And they just copied and pasted whatever they found, so I hope this helps. But they gave them a couple of keywords, and I think this is a really great answer. So I have voted that for them, give them a little love. Yeah. Here's one. This is just a kind of, it's not a great question. There's no code. He's just posting his stack trace, right? I think he's trying to bundle is where that's coming from. But this person says, hey, welcome to Stackoverflow. Can you please have a look at this link, which is how to ask good questions. We also would need to see your code. Thanks. I think that's great. I think that's a really welcoming. Here's some of the tooling that Stack Overflow has built in to automate this, and empowered their power users to provide these welcoming, contextually welcoming, compassionate feedback to the user asking the question. So this person, he's a guy. He's getting downvoted -7 times. So someone came along and said, hey, I'm going to flag this question. Here's why, right? I'm not alone. I don't know how I feel about that. It's kind of like we're ganging up on you, but that's all right. And then it gives you more information on how to go ask good questions. So I think that's probably like a one-click button. I don't have nearly enough reputation for them to give me that tool. Here's another example of when things can go wrong and how quickly they can go wrong. So this person is trying to be helpful. Hey, we need more information. But they don't tell them what. So again, that's this person assuming that this person, the poster, the question asker, knows as much as they do about how to communicate in a technological way. And they probably don't. And so Hamid came back and said, that's what I have to tell you. Like, I mean, this conversation is not going anywhere good, right? So here's an opposite example of, so this is a question, very similar sort of information in the question, but because this was so long, I cut that part out. So the first person to ask up here says, hey, what do the logs show? And then you can read all that if you like, but you get to the bottom of, hey, thanks for trying to help me. So I think it's about asking the right questions, getting that right information out, approaching it, putting ourselves in new people's shoes. All right, so that's what I have. we talked about asking good questions and then answering compassionately. Follow that code of conduct on Stack Overflow, and just for me, the most important, I find I give much better answers when I think about where that person's coming from when they ask that question, and it really helps a lot. I want to encourage everybody to participate in Stack Overflow. I think it's a really great tool. I think it's important. I think it has an undeserved bad reputation. I really support the things that they've done in the last year and a half, 2 years at this point, and I think that they deserve our support. So that's me. Again, somebody take out their phone. I just want to see if it works. And you can read about John Skeet. He's a pretty great guy. He's got a lot of talks on YouTube and stuff. Really nice guy. And then the code of conduct is just stackoverflow/conduct. Did it work? That's so cool. All right. Any questions? Yeah.
So do you make it a point to spend a certain amount of time a week, a day on Stack Overflow?
I have been trying to, yeah. Yeah, I've been trying to just, you can put it into 10 or 15 minutes when you got it.
And is your primary motivation to help others, to give back to the community, to try to keep the amazing resource that it is going? What's your main motivation?
That's a great question. I'll be honest with you, no, it's none of those things. For me, it was more of learning that language that I'm talking about. That's what I'm really interested in. How can I be the most helpful that I can be? So it was a very selfish thing what got me interested in it. It may develop into that over time of, I'm getting a lot of value out of helping people and see them, improve their coding. But no, it's been more about learning that language for me. Yeah. Yeah. Right.
Which is based on layout, because not Stack Overflow, up and down code mechanisms. So you ultimately end up getting a lot of questions, but it's just, it gives you the top search result. It doesn't actually feed you if it's close to being too broad or whatever.
Right. Yeah, they should, I agree. They should put those harder to search for Google, because there's so much wrong information on Stack Overflow, and there's stuff that gets downvoted. And if somebody comes to Stack Overflow and doesn't understand the voting system, they could be taking advice that's 3 years old that never worked 3 years ago. So there's certainly challenges there.
We got another Google search algorithm. I think there's a pretty good chance they're actually doing that.
Yeah, I would bet you're right. Yeah. Customizing it for specific sites. Yeah. 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 Right. Yeah. I don't know. That's an interesting problem to solve. Maybe they should sort them by upvotes instead of by accepted being at the top. Do they? Right. Cool. All right, well, thank you. And do you want me to introduce Patrick? Or ask for lightning talks? Or